Gervonta Davis is taking the boxing world by storm, becoming the fighter everyone talks about. He's the most sought-after name in the ring, and even his peers can't stop praising him. Let's dive into what other boxers have to say about this unstoppable force. In 2010, when Shane Mosley faced Floyd Mayweather at the MGM, he nearly made everyone believe he could knock out Mayweather. Early in the fight, Mosley landed a clean jab to Mayweather's body, followed by a powerful right hand to the head. In the second round, Mosley stunned everyone by breaking through Mayweather's usually impenetrable defense. However, as Steve Kim put it, by the end of the second round, Mosley's chances were over. Mayweather went on to win the fight by unanimous decision. Now, 14 years later, Mosley reflected on a potential match between Mayweather and Gervonta Davis, also known as Abdul Wahid. In his contemplation, Mosley shared his thoughts on the only way Davis, nicknamed Tank, could possibly defeat Mayweather in the ring.
Tank usually gets his people when they come after him and start trying to fight him. Then he gets with the counterpunch.
During the recent feud with Mayweather, Gervonta Davis made a bold claim that he could knock out Floyd. When he appeared on the Cigar Talk podcast, he was asked if he really believed he could beat the retired boxer, who holds a record of 50 professional wins. Davis confidently replied that he would give Mayweather a spanking. However, Shane Mosley has a different perspective. While he acknowledges that being a southpaw could give Davis an edge against Mayweather, he still thinks Mayweather would have the upper hand.
I like both guys, so it's like Floyd has a big ego where he wants to, be the man on top, and Gervonta trying to get on top. But
according to Mosley, Mayweather would win easily at 135 pounds. He noted that Mayweather is taller and faster, making it difficult for Davis to get close enough to land effective counterpunches due to his shorter stature. Despite this, Mosley admitted that Davis possesses significant power, similar to what Mosley had in his prime. Mosley also pointed out that Mayweather has historically struggled against southpaw fighters, who lead with their right leg. This was evident in his fights against DeMarcus Corley and Zab Judah, who managed to land some hits on him. This gives Davis a potential advantage. However, Mosley ultimately believes that Mayweather, especially in his prime, would perform better against Davis. Floyd Mayweather, known by the nicknames Pretty Boy and Money, had two distinct phases in his career. As Pretty Boy, a younger Mayweather was more aggressive and fought toe-to-toe with his opponents. However, as he got older and his body slowed down, he became smarter about his approach and focused more on defense during the Money era. Shane Mosley believes that both versions of Mayweather could beat Gervonta Davis. He stated that the more defensive Money, Mayweather would have defeated Davis, and the aggressive Pretty Boy Mayweather would have also won. Mosley confidently concluded that no matter which version of Mayweather faced Davis, Mayweather would come out on top. Respected trainer Stephen Breadman Edwards often breaks down boxing strategies and answers questions from fans. And during a question about the old generation and new generation, an intriguing comparison was made between Manny Pacquiao and Gervonta Davis. Stephen answered that while Tank doesn't have the impressive career record that Manny has, head-to-head matchups are more about who can beat whom, rather than who has the better resume. Tank is a strong contender because he is an excellent counterpuncher, and Manny can be reckless at times. However, by the time Manny reached the lightweight division, he had evolved into a great boxer puncher. The Manny who defeated David Diaz at 135 pounds in 2008 could beat 99% of all lightweights in history. At this moment, it's hard to pick Tank to beat that version of Manny, so Manny would likely win by decision. Before Davis fought Frank Martin, when the rumors were going around, Stephen was asked about the opinion on that fight, and he was 100% spot on.
Tank in the fight, but it's still a fight. You gotta understand something. I done took a lot of fights as an underdog, so you gotta have a certain kind of optimism and self-esteem.
Bread's response: if Tank Davis had chosen to fight Jose Valenzuela, people would have complained. I think Rayo is a great fighter, and his knockout win over Chris Colbert was one of the best of the year. But with a record of only 13-2, there would still be complaints, even though he's talented. Stephen Breadman Edwards believed that a potential matchup between Gervonta Davis and Frank Martin is a good one if it happens. Before Martin's last fight, where he didn't perform as well, people wanted to see him face top opponents. Now, after a lukewarm performance, some are complaining about him fighting a top guy like Davis. If the fight happens now, Edwards isn't sure if Martin would win, but he has no problem with the matchup. Martin has boxing IQ, skill, some power, and he's undefeated. His coach, Derek James, is elite. In his last fight, Martin wasn't at his best, but showed determination and superior conditioning, winning with a late knockdown. He deserves credit for that. Historically, well-rounded fighters have given offensively dynamic fighters tough matches as underdogs. For example, Bernard Hopkins was undervalued against Felix Trinidad. Hopkins, a 6-year champion, faced Tito, an ex-welterweight who was favored because of his dynamic offense. Hopkins outclassed him. Well-rounded fighters' strengths are their ability to adjust and neutralize opponents, which isn't always flashy but very effective. Shane Mosley was an offensively dynamic fighter, while Winky Wright was well-rounded. Despite being smaller, Mosley was the favorite, but Winky beat him twice. Similarly, Mike Tyson was favored against Holyfield, who was more well-rounded. Holyfield outclassed Tyson twice. Before the fight, Edwards favored Tank over Martin, considering Tank a top 10 pound-for-pound fighter. However, he noted that we won't know how good Martin can be until he faces a top opponent. Well-rounded fighters are often undervalued until they step up because their strengths are best showcased against elite offensive fighters. Tim Bradley analyzes a potential fight between Gervonta Tank Davis and Vasily Lomachenko, discussing Tank's strategy and how he could use his uppercut effectively. Here's a simplified version of his thoughts. Bradley on Tank's uppercut against Frank Martin. Bradley explains that every fighter has habits, and during his film study, he noticed Martin's tendency to drop down low, like a wrestler, and lift his lead hand high, which blocks his side vision. Bradley figured this would be the perfect opportunity for Tank to land an uppercut. Tank is smarter than many people think. He carefully watches his opponent's videos and learns their weaknesses. Whoa. Bradley is confident that Tank has been watching Lomachenko for years and knows how to beat him. Bradley on how Tank matches up with Lomachenko. Bradley believes this fight would be very close, a 50-50th match. Tank is a counterpuncher who reacts to his opponent's moves, and Lomachenko is excellent at using feints to throw his opponents off balance. This will challenge Tank's rhythm and timing, making the fight difficult for him. However, Tank has a good chance of winning, possibly by knockout. To succeed, Tank needs to push Lomachenko onto his back foot and keep him off balance. Lomachenko's high guard leaves his body exposed, which Tank can target with powerful body shots. Additionally, Lomachenko sometimes misjudges his distance, and Tank can capitalize on this by timing an uppercut, a punch Bradley believes could knock Lomachenko out if it lands. But in my personal opinion, Tank Davis now holds the top spot because, despite what some may say about Frank Martin, Martin was one of the top lightweight fighters. Tank did what he always does. He figured out his opponent and then knocked him out. It's not that Lomachenko isn't a great boxer anymore. It's just that Davis is proving to be as good as everyone expects. The idea of Tank fighting Lomachenko next has been mentioned, and I think it's a good match to settle things. Although it might be a bit overdue, it's still an exciting fight. Personally, I believe a tougher match for Tank would be against Shakur Stevenson, but there's still time for that fight to happen. Regarding Frank Martin, my opinion hasn't changed. He remains a strong contender. Other fighters like Andy Cruz or Keyshawn Davis need to prove themselves more before shaking up the rankings. The fight between Tank and Martin went as I expected. What are your thoughts? Let us know in the comments below.